The last time I spoke to my dad, he was standing in the garage fixing a light he'd already replaced twice. And when I asked why he kept bothering with it, he said, "It's easier than fixing what I broke between us." I didn't respond, and that silence still feels like a missed chance I can't undo. The last time I spoke to my dad, he was standing in the garage under that same old light that never worked right. It was a cold, gray afternoon in late September. One of those days where the sky looks like it gave up trying. I had just stopped by to drop off a piece of mail that still came to his house, an insurance renewal, I think. I could have texted him a photo of it. Could have left it in the mailbox. But something made me walk inside. I found him standing on that old step stool, the one with paint splatters from every room we ever repainted when I was a kid. His back was to me. He was focused, like always, messing with the wires in the ceiling fixture for the third or fourth time that year. I watched him in silence for a minute. His shoulders didn't look as wide as they used to. He looked smaller, older. His hands were still strong, though. They shook a little, but they were steady when it counted. Cleared my throat. Still fighting that thing? He didn't turn around. "Yeah," he said. "This one's stubborn." I gave a half laugh. "I think it's the same one you replaced in the spring." "Yeah." He paused, twisting something. "And before that. And before that." There was this weird pause. The kind that feels heavy, but you don't know why until later. Then he said, real quiet, "It's easier than fixing what I broke between us." Still didn't turn around. Just said it like it was part of the task, like he was commenting on a stripped wire or a burnt-out bulb. And I didn't know what to say to that. I didn't even know if he meant for me to hear it. So I didn't say anything. I stood there for maybe 20 seconds longer, handed him the envelope, said, "Here's your mail," and left. He called out thanks as I walked away, but he still didn't look at me. And I didn't look back. I didn't know that would be the last time I saw him alive. People ask sometimes, "Were you too close?" And I never know how to answer. Not really. We were close in the way that you are when you're little and your dad can carry you on his shoulders and fix your bike chain. He was always there when I was a kid. Every game, every parent-teacher night, every scraped knee. He built my science fair projects and taught me how to check the oil in my car. But something cracked when I got older. I think I was around 16 when I started noticing the tension between him and my mom. The way her voice went sharp when he came home late. The way he'd disappear for hours on Saturdays. I didn't want to know, but I did. Then came the night I couldn't unhear. Mom was crying in the kitchen. It was almost midnight. I had gotten up to get a glass of water and stopped in the hallway when I heard her whispering into the phone. I didn't catch the whole thing. Just enough. The name of another woman. The words, "How long?" Her saying, "I can't do this anymore." After that, nothing was the same. He didn't move out until my senior year. Said it was mutual. Said it was the best thing for everyone. And maybe it was. But he didn't fight to stay in our lives, not really. He moved into a small one-bedroom rental on the edge of town. Still in my life, technically, but not really in it. We'd talk sometimes. Mostly about things that didn't matter. Car problems. Weather. Money. Never feelings. Never the divorce. Never what I heard that night. I think part of me wanted him to bring it up. To confess. To say, "I know I hurt your mom. I know I hurt you." But he never did. And eventually I stopped expecting it. So yeah, when I walked into the garage that day and heard him say what he said, "It's easier than fixing what I broke between us," it stopped me cold. I wanted to say something. I really did. But I didn't even know where to start. What do you say to the man who used to hold your hand across the street, but didn't hold your family together when it mattered? I think I was still angry. But mostly I was tired. Tired of waiting for a conversation that never came. A week after he died, heart attack in his sleep, just like that, my uncle handed me a box of stuff from his garage. Mostly tools. Some old car parts. And a small black notebook. He said, "Your dad kept this by the workbench. Figured you might want it." I flipped through it a few days later. It was mostly to-do lists. Change oil. Buy new screws for shelf. Call Gary about the mower. That kind of thing. But in the middle of the notebook, on a torn-out page, he'd written something by hand, all alone on the line, "I don't know how to be forgiven by someone who won't talk to you." I read that line over and over. Sat there at my kitchen table until the sun went down. I didn't even cry. I just sat there feeling like my whole body had gone hollow. After I read that line in the notebook, I don't know how to be forgiven by someone who won't talk to you, I started seeing things differently. Or maybe I started remembering things I had pushed aside. Like how he showed up at my college graduation, even though we hadn't spoken in months. He sat in the very back row. I didn't see him until after the ceremony, standing by the fence near the parking lot. He didn't push his way into the photos, didn't try to hug me, just gave me a nod and said, "Proud of you, kid," and then he left. Or how, when my mom got sick, he brought groceries to her house and left them on the porch. Every Saturday. No note, no knock. Just bags lined up neatly. I thought she didn't notice. But one day I saw her staring out the window as he drove off. She never said a word about it. The deeper I looked, the more little moments I started to see differently. But then came something I wasn't ready for. While cleaning out the garage with my uncle, I found an old metal box wedged behind some shelves. It was locked, but he gave me the key without hesitation. Inside were letters. Dozens of them. All written by my dad. Some folded, some still in envelopes. None had stamps. None were sent. They were to me. The first one started from the week after he moved out of the house. "Hey bud, I know you're probably mad. I don't blame you. But I wanted to explain I didn't even finish the first letter before I had to step outside. The garage smelled like oil and dust and old wood. It felt like being trapped inside a version of him I didn't know existed. That night, I read through 10 of them. Some rambled. Some were short. Some sounded like he had been drinking. Some were written on the back of receipts or junk mail. But they all said the same thing in different ways. He was sorry. He didn't know how to reach me. He didn't expect forgiveness. But he needed to try anyway. There was one that hit the hardest. It said, "If you ever ask me what happened, I'll tell you the truth. But I won't force it on you. I already took too much without asking." After that, I went looking for more. I started calling the people he used to work with. Old neighbors. Even my mom, who barely spoke about him anymore. That's when I found out something I wasn't prepared for. The woman my dad had been seeing during the marriage, the one my mom suspected, the one I thought he left us for, had died. 10 years ago. She'd been diagnosed with breast cancer 2 years before he moved out. One of his old friends from work said he was trying to help her through it, but he didn't know how to tell your mom. It got messy. He didn't handle it right. But it wasn't what you think. I didn't even know how to process that. I asked my mom about it. I expected her to deny it or blow it off. But she just stared at her tea and said I knew something was going on. I didn't know it was that. But I knew. That was the first time she didn't call him a coward. That changed everything. But it also changed nothing. Because he was still gone. And I still didn't talk to him when I had the chance. And the last words he said to me, "It's easier than fixing what I broke between us," still hang in the air like a broken signal. I didn't answer. Even now, I keep thinking, if I had just said one thing back, if I had just asked him what he meant, if I had just turned around in the garage and said, "Okay, then fix it." But I didn't. I just walked away. A week later, I went back to the house. Not for anything specific, I just couldn't stay away. I kept thinking there had to be more. Some thread I hadn't pulled yet. The house was cold. Still smelled like motor oil and black coffee. His boots were by the back door, just like always. I sat on the garage step for a while, just staring at the workbench. That's when I noticed something I hadn't before, a wooden drawer in the back corner hidden under a pile of extension cords. It was locked. The key wasn't with the others I'd already found, but he was old school. So I did what he would have done, grabbed a flathead screwdriver and pried it open. Inside was a stack of old cassette tapes, labeled in pen. Some said things like Dad plus Alex, 94, or 4th of July, Lake Trip. Others were just dates. I found an old tape player in the cabinet under the bench. Still worked. I sat on the garage floor, surrounded by cold air and sawdust, and listened. The first one was from a camping trip when I was 6. I didn't remember it until I heard my own voice on the tape yelling, "Look, Dad." A frog. And him laughing in the background. I listened to 5 more. Most were just moments. Quiet family stuff. Birthday candles. My mom laughing. Me asking a million questions. His voice, steady and warm, answering every single one. But then I got to one labeled 2017, basement. It started with silence. Then the sound of him breathing close to the mic. Then he said, "I shouldn't have let her get sick alone. I shouldn't have lied to everyone. I thought I was helping. I wasn't. I was a coward. I didn't cheat because I didn't love your mom. I cheated because I didn't know how to be seen as weak. And she was dying. And I didn't want to fall apart in front of her. I just sat there, frozen. The garage around me disappeared. Then he added, "You don't have to forgive me. But I want you to know I stayed with her until the end. I didn't leave her. I didn't run. Not when it counted." That was the first time I realized he might not have been the man I thought he was. At least not entirely. He didn't run from her when she was dying. He just ran from the story of what he did. And he let us all believe the worst. I took the tape to my mom. We sat in her living room. She didn't say much during the recording. Just stared at the wall, her tea going cold. After it ended, she said one thing. "He should have told me." I would have hated him less if he'd told me. Later that night, I started sorting through more of his things. There was one envelope I hadn't opened yet marked "For Alex, when you're ready." Inside was a single photograph. Me, age 10, on his shoulders at a fair. And a short note. "I don't know what kind of man I was to you in the end. But I hope at some point you remember who I tried to be before I broke it. I haven't told anyone about that tape. Not even my uncle. It still doesn't make it all okay. But it changed something. It made the silence between us feel less like rejection, and more like pain we both didn't know how to speak. Sometimes I replay that moment in the garage, him with his hand on the light fixture, me standing there with a piece of mail, and I wonder how close we were to finally talking. One word, one breath could have changed everything. But neither of us moved. Now he's gone, and all I'm left with is what he almost said, and what I didn't. And some days I honestly don't know if it hurts more to miss him, or to know I helped build the silence that kept us apart.